Animation. It's something I've been known to do for a time or two, but it has been quite a hot second since I've done it last. And I'm worried I might be a little rusty, so why not take the time to relearn how to animate by animating myself some intros and outros. So for my intro, I took a lot of inspiration from video game intros. I have always loved it when art channels introduce their channel like it's a video game that you're starting to play. I've always loved that. I wanted my intro to feel more soft, like a comfort game such as like Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing. But I feel like it turned out like one of those dress-up games you would play on the internet, like those old Flash games you would play. If you know, you know. Even though it didn't turn out like my original thought, it's still very comforting and nostalgic for me. And I found it quite fun to do. I wanted the animation to kind of look slow and chunky, like you would see in those games, so I animated it at 5 frames per second, and I think this really adds to the feel of it. I wouldn't say backgrounds are my strong suit, but I do really like how it looks. Even though it's not necessarily anything fancy, I like how sparkly it looks, and I love the gradient from the purple to the pink. It kind of makes it feel like a fantasy sunset. Surprisingly, animating it was the fun part. Trying to edit it so it would actually be like a nice intro was the difficult part. I wanted to have a fade in, fade out, but for whatever reason, as you can see on the screen, they had this really weird blur thing that they would do after it faded in, and I didn't like it, and I just could not figure out how to get rid of it. And for whatever reason, there were 2 different like fade-ins, one that you could edit and one that you couldn't, but they both had the same weird blur thing, and it was really frustrating because I didn't understand why it did that. So I did eventually figure out for the fade in how to get rid of the ending of it there, because like I found some sort of menu. I don't know how I found it because I couldn't consistently get this menu to pop up, but I found it a couple of times. I don't know. Hopefully the menu will pop up soon so you can see it. But right now I'm fiddling around with the speed, seeing if that has anything to do with it. Right here's the menu. I could not figure out how to get this to pop up consistently, and it was really frustrating, especially when I tried to edit other videos. It was like a game of chance. Like, it was like, ooh, am I gonna get the menu this time? Am I gonna get to edit it? And it got kind of frustrating. I did eventually figure everything out, but it was like really weird workarounds that I had to do, which was not fun. Right now I'm just fiddling around with the fade in, trying to make the beginning of it a little shorter so that way I could have a quick fade in and you could see a good amount of the animation. I felt like the black was taking up too much of the time on the animation and making it seem much shorter than it actually was. So I have edited out anytime I need to put in new media, so you will just see things appear like that. This is just for my privacy, mostly my pictures and everything. I don't need random people seeing them. I added a black screen at the beginning, with the hopes that I could move the fade in back a bit, so that way I could see more of the animation. It was a tedious process getting it exactly how I wanted it to be. If you've ever animated before, you know how tedious and difficult it can be, and this made the animation the fun part, so now I'm trying to figure out how to put the fade out in properly. The fade out is like the fade in, just flipped around, so the little blurs are at the beginning of it, and I genuinely could not edit them out to fix it. I did end up finding a workaround, which you'll see later, but it required me to go back into my animation after I finished it and add fade out frames. Like, again, I don't understand why a fade out has the little weird blurs at the beginning. It doesn't make sense to me. If anyone can think of a reason on why having the blurs would be important to a fade out, let me know, please, because I'm genuinely curious on why they would be there. Because I went back into my program and added those fade to black frames, it made it more difficult for you to see the blur. You still can see it, it's just not as prominent. It doesn't bug me too much, but it's still there and I'm still kind of like, ugh. Despite all of that, I really like how it turned out. And apparently I forgot to record me putting in the audio, so here's the finished result. I wanted my intro and outro to be connected somehow, so I decided to use the same background for it. And I think that was a good decision because I feel like it kind of ties everything all together. For this one, I wanted to animate at 15 frames a second, which is my go-to. Even though I'm a little bit rusty, I still wanted to try to do what I normally did. I mean, just doing this wave, I was just thinking to myself, how did I animate like as good as I did when I was 14? I used to use Flip-a-Clip, and I had bought the premium. However, I have bought it on Android and not Apple, and I currently use an iPad. And I used to praise Flip-a-Clip so much because it was a cheap program to use, and it was a fantastic program for beginners too, very easy to understand and learn. But then they switched to a subscription, and yes, the subscription is only $3 a month. But I had bought Flip-a-Clip when it was $7, so I wouldn't have even gotten 3 months of Flip-a-Clip Premium for the price I bought it for. Luckily, I have kept Premium on Google devices, but I can't use it on Apple. Anyway, enough of my Flip-a-Clip rant. Right now I'm having the same exact issue that I had earlier with the fade-ins and fade-out. Like I said earlier, I couldn't figure out how to get that menu to pop up consistently. So again, I kept having to find workarounds. I figured out that there was a transition that also faded to black. However, my clips were too short to have transitions, so said CapCut. So I decided to export the video instead, because then my clip wouldn't be too short. Here the menu actually popped up for me, so I actually got the fade in to work. Again, I don't know what causes the menu to pop up, it was so random. Like, maybe there are more veteran CapCut users than I am who would know how to do this, but I just figured it out as I went, man. One of the workarounds I mentioned earlier was the transitions, however you need 2 separate clips for that. So I just found when the clip turns black and I split it there and added the transition. And while the fade out transition was much quicker than the video effects, I did not care at all because it was finally working and I was just like, I am not fiddling around with this anymore, it's working, I'm doing it. So the fade out at the end is just a little quicker than the fade in at the beginning, but it's not too big a deal. Here I actually recorded putting in the audio. The audio is copyright free and is actually here on YouTube from a YouTuber called 𝐏𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐬 if you want to check it out yourself. Using the audio does have rules, but I'm okay with that. The 2 audios I chose have a very soft feeling and I love the vibe it gives out. And here is the finished result of this one. So this next idea actually came from my comment section. And just a little side note, I love it when I see comments, they make me really happy, so please comment if you have anything you want to say. I love reading them. But this person suggested that I put a little animating loop in the background of my speed paints when they only take up a small portion of the screen. And I could not agree more with that, so I did have to make another animation for that. And it was actually super helpful because I was worried this video was gonna be too short, so thank you so much for this recommendation. Because art is the only personality trait I have, I decided to draw my character drawing in the background. This animation was quite simple. I only had to move 2 parts of the drawing, her arm, and the pen that was drawing on the tablet. Originally I did want to try tweening it, but then decided against that due to how my layers were working with me. If you ask me the type of animation I do, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I did a mix of the transform tool and frame by frame, so it's like some hybrid form. I don't know. Is there a name for that even? Anyway, I don't think it matters too much because most of her body stays still anyway. I did want to add more to the animation because I thought just her drawing in the background would be a little boring, so I added in a blink cycle, and 3 times in a row, I drew the blink on the wrong frame, so it looked out of order, and I had to change it 3 times, and you think I would have learned my lesson after the first time? Double check the frames you're drawing on. Maybe even triple check, because I thought I double checked, but apparently I didn't. I didn't want her to blink every time it looped, so I copy and pasted her drawing frames and then took her open eyes and put them on those layers. And I was originally trying to flip her onto the other side of the canvas so both sides would have her drawing, but then that proved too difficult. So here's the finished result. There's no audio for this one because it's just a background image, and because I made it a GIF instead of an MP4, I'm able just to extend it infinitely. For whatever reason, my GIFs kind of look flashy when they play back. I'm not sure why that is because I use the fill bucket tool and I would think that would be opaque. It doesn't bother me too bad, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. so I might go back and try to fix it later, but that's a maybe. You might have noticed that the animations I did were very simple, and that's just because since I'm rusty, I wanted to ease back into things. But it's kind of sad when 14-year-old me probably did better at animating. But then again, when I was 14, I animated much more often than I do now, and I definitely want to get back into it. If there's something I miss, it's definitely the, I think it was, like, the 2017 to, like, 2020 animation memes. Those were peak, and I know people still do animation memes, but I don't see them as often, and I want to see more, but I want to animate more. Again, if you want to use the music I used in this video, please check out Chill Peach here on YouTube. They make a mix of music that is both copyrighted and uncopyrighted, so make sure to check the descriptions and in the name of the videos to make sure that what you're using isn't copyrighted. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you liked the video. Have a good day!